I'm going to look at another evidence-based teaching method. It's called academic controversy. And it's about taking sides and then combining ideas. One of the common factors in the teaching strategies that have high effect sizes is that they really make students think. And they really involve students, very often involve students actually in discussion in pairs or in small groups. And this is just one example. It's one method of many which which you could make use of in most subjects. Actually, I think you could find. Okay, so the method needs a controversy. It's called academic controversy. It needs a topic with arguments for and arguments against. So let's say you were a carpenter or a building instructor, teaching students in construction skills, and you might give them a controversy like screws are better than nails. Yeah. Now, screws are better than nails in certain circumstances, but nails are better than screws in other circumstances. So it's only partly true. And that's the ideal for this topic. And as you'll see, if the teacher uses this academic controversy, it'll really clarify for the students when to use screws and when to use nails. So it's a very practical teaching strategy. Here's another controversy. This mathematical procedure lays out its arguments properly and it's free of errors. So you're giving students a worked example, a mathematical solution to a problem, and the students that have to determine whether it's laying out its arguments properly and whether it's free of errors. And to some degree, the arguments are okay and it's free of errors. To another degree, you've carefully constructed this mathematical procedure, this worked example in a way that there are some errors in it. Yeah, but you don't tell them in advance. Of course, they have to work that out. Health and safety procedures slow up building and are not worth the extra effort. Now, a lot of students will believe that, and of course it's useful to inoculate them against such misconceptions, and one way of doing that would be to use academic controversy. So there are arguments for, arguments against. Environmentally sensitive buildings are not worth the extra cost in a similar way. There are controversies in every subject. So away we go. This is the way the method works. First of all, you allocate each student in a pair a point of view either for or against the controversial statement, say. Okay, so you're putting students into pairs, and you might say, all the students on the Windows side of the classroom, you will argue that screws are better than nails. All the students on the other side, on the door side of the classroom, you will argue that nails are better than screws. So they've got two different opposing points of view in this controversy. Yeah, and you allocate those. The students prepare their arguments. You're quiet. They work on their arguments, why screws are better than nails or why nails are better than screws. Yeah. So they work on their arguments. If you think about it, there are lots of students who are trying to think the same thing out. So you could put them together at this stage. All the people believing screws are better than nails could be in one little group, and all the ones that believe that nails are better than screws in another. But they could work separately. It's up to you. Then students take turns in their pairs to state their case uninterrupted. So one student will say, then one that was nearest the window will say, well, screws are better than nails because, did-da. Yeah. And then after that, there's no interruption during that statement. And then the other student gets their turn to say why nails are better than screws and to give the opposing point of view. And you time this fairly rigorously. You might literally give them a minute each. And you might say, you're 1 minute in now, you need to swap speaker. Yeah. And then when it comes to the end of that student's minute, you then say, okay, finished that. You've taken turns. Now we're on 4 on my list there. Now the students argue good-naturedly, if possible. And so they say, oh, you said screws are better than nails because of so-and-so, but I think such and such. And so they try to argue, critique each other's arguments, okay? Number 5, the students then drop their advocacy, so they no longer need to stick to nails are better than screws or screws are better than nails. They can now drop that, and they have to agree in their pairs the for and against arguments for screws, yeah, or nails. So they might say screws are better than nails because of this, 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 and this. We agree that. But nails are better than screws for that, 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 and that, and we agree that. Yeah. So they've looked carefully at both points of view. The teacher then collects these ideas and improves them, and there's a way of doing that called assertive questioning, which is brilliant, but I haven't got time to look at that today. But you collect the ideas from the students, and you could put a master list up on the board at this stage. Okay, why are screws better than nails? Why are nails better than screws? And write that up, all the key points, as it were, but taking them from the students. Yeah. The students now agree how well they worked together, because they can get a bit heated on this method, in this teaching method. It's hugely enjoyed. It makes students think hard about the topic, and there's a way of their understanding being checked by the teacher at the end and by each other. So it's a great teaching method. It hits the cognitive science principles. It's certainly true of expert teachers that they get students arguing. And so this is a way to get that arguing is going, and it's got a high effect size. It's called a cooperative learning method. There's a whole series of cooperative learning methods. This is just one of them. There's another one called Jigsaw, which is really brilliant.